Hey everyone, you got Chorizy-E here. Me and Beefloaf recently did a video on the 40-man roster and what the White Sox might be able to do with that. And one of the things that came up was Liam Hendriks. And Liam Hendriks' contract is up at the end of the year with an option, and we felt that that kind of needed its own video. So this is that video. It's Saturday. There's an eclipse outside, and instead of going out and raw dogging that, I figured I'd do that video that we promised. So here it is. Let's go through the Liam Hendriks contract. And now the interesting thing about this contract is that he has an option at the end of this year for it's a club option where they can give him $15 million right now, or they can give him $15 million over the course of 10 years. So it's $1.5 million every year up until 2033. And so you could see that here on the breakdown. And if they choose the club option of this year and give him the $15 million, at that point, you're giving away pretty much an entire season of productivity as he's out with Tommy John surgery. He's recovering from that. So the likelihood of them picking up the $15 million is low. And if you look at what the White Sox contracts look like, this is he's a big part of the expensive part of this year. And going forward, a lot of stuff comes off the books. I mean, Luis Robert Jr. and Andrew Benintendi are there. You can get the arbier of Dylan Cease probably in the $10-15 million range, not higher than that. And you're kind of not spending on a lot of other guys. So they might opt to just take the 10 years, give them $1.5 million over those 10, and really save some money this year when they're spending a lot, and then look for more opportunities later. That $1.5 million doesn't really hurt. So that's the most likely scenario of what they're going to do. But it's also possible that they could get creative with this. So it brings up an idea like what happened with James Paxton. So James Paxton was offered a contract from the Red Sox after he had Tommy John surgery, and he'd be recovering from that. And that gave him $6 million the year he was coming back. Now, he was going to come back earlier. That didn't really come to fruition. And the option that they had at the end of the year was a 2-year, $26 million club option. Now, they did not exercise that. They chose not to. But what would happen in the case that they did not exercise that is that there would be a $4 million option for him to return. So he could take that option on his own. And that's something where you could kind of do that with Hendriks this year, I think. And the idea would be, let's say you give him some kind of small contract on top of the $1.5 million that he's going to make each year for the next 10. So you give him maybe $2-3 million for this year, considering he's very unlikely to pitch. So he had Tommy John surgery in August. It's a 12 to 14 month recovery period. It would be surprising if he pitched in 2024. And if the Sox are going to be terrible, like we think they probably are going to be, there's no reason to rush him back. However, if he's under contract, you put him on the 60-day IL. He doesn't really hurt the 40-man, and you get to oversee his rehab. So as you're getting closer and closer and closer to the possibility of an option at the end of this, you would have a good idea of where he's at in his recovery. You would have had a lot of vision into everything that went into his recovery, and understand truly where you would think he'd be in the next, let's say, 2 years. Let's say you did like an option similar to that where it was like 2 and 25 or something, or 2 and 20. If you look at what closers are making these days, you see that the top end closers are up above 10 million, but being 36 at that point, maybe he's a little bit lower. So you have some flexibility in that contract. Maybe you drop it, 2 and 15 or something. I don't know what he'd be willing to take. But there's a lot of options when you do something like that. And you could even roll it over like they did in Boston, where you'd say, this is a 2-year, $20 million contract. But if we don't exercise it, you have the option to exercise it at $4 million, something like that. So there's a lot to do, and there's a lot of ways to be creative about this. And I think if you're thinking about the White Sox and their need for not only primetime players, right? Like guys that are very good, which they have less and less of each year. They also need a little goodwill around the league. I don't know if you've noticed, but there has not been the best thing said about the White Sox from their players recently. So it's going to be tough for the new administration to bring in free agents. So treating Liam with this kind of respect may be something that would be seen as a good thing from outside of the organization. And that honestly could not hurt at this point. But that's pretty much all I had for you. Just think about this in a way of like, we know Liam's not going to pitch this year. They are probably not going to give him $15 million to not pitch this year, but there are creative ways to keep him around. There are creative ways to not cut yourself off from the option of helping him rehab and helping your team in 2025 when it seems the White Sox might care again. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.